Welcome to the Sports Car Lessons Podcast. I'm your host, Big Ken. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on a streaming service, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You'll be notified whenever I drop any new content. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Before we start, I'm trying to do a little push here for subscribers on YouTube. So if you're not subscribed to the Sports Car Lessons Podcast channel on YouTube, I'd appreciate it if you go over, hit that subscribe button. Trying to get, I'm like a little around 600. I'm setting a goal to 1,000. So I'd love for you guys to go over and click on that subscribe button. So shout out to Joe, Premier Sports Cars and Memorabilia. He was on Thursday's episode. Great episode. If you missed any bit of that, please go back and give it a listen. It was a great episode. I had a great hobby weekend. I started out, I set up Friday night at the Plainville show, a local show here in Connecticut. Shout out Alex Ideal Cards. They do a monthly Saturday show over there. Those tables are always sold out. Probably 3 or 4 times a year, he does a Friday night show. And a number of the dealers, that have tables for the Saturday show don't want to set up on a Friday night. This is my second time doing it. So shout out to my guy, Alex, who gets me in. Somebody cancels the table. He gets me in and gets me a table. So I appreciate that. And even though, and I'm going to say Friday night here, it was like 80, 85 degrees. It was just a beautiful Friday night here. So there wasn't a lot of foot traffic. But even though it was a little bit on the slower side, for me, it was still a great show. I had already had a deal done before getting to the show with my man Tyler at MT_cards_N_more. We talked during the week. He was buying a lot from me, 5 cards, Ultra Modern Football, easy deal. And I was excited, right? I'm on my way to the show, already know I got a big sale, right? I'm way ahead of the game before I even show up to the show. So to me, it didn't matter one way or another. I was happy. And he was also going to be set up at the show. So it worked out beautiful for both of us. So to me, it was nice and relaxing for me to stroll in, set up, get that deal out of the way quick, and then just hang out with all my local hobby friends, right? Great Friday night hanging out. I have to be honest with you, even if nobody showed up to that show Friday night, it still would have been a great night, right? And I know most dealers in the room, and a handful of them I chat with daily. So it's nice to be able just to go out and hang out with these guys, just talk hobby, talk sports, whatever else is going on. Yeah, it's just a great way to spend a Friday night. Joe was on this last week and he was talking, and I've interviewed a number of people who've been in the hobby for many years and talk about like the back in, from 2000 to 2010, back in the, doing these Friday nights where they would all meet up at somebody had a shop, had a store, and they would meet up there and they would hang out and they would open wax, and it was just like a big guys night on a Friday night over there. And that's kind of what this show reminded me of, but just being much bigger. Because and I'll talk a little later. First thing I did was I bought a box of wax there, and it was the first thing I did after I got my deal done. So after I did that deal, my first deal, I didn't get any deals done, right, until the end of the show. So the show was 6 to 9:30. And most of us showed up at like between 4:30 and 5 and set up. So it was a little bit of a longer night for us. And from like 8:50 to like 9:15 or 9:20, I did a bunch of deals buying and selling, right? It was like this big frenzy at the end of the show. And it's a funny thing, at a show, when it gets to the end of a show, no matter what's happening, whether it's been a busy show or a slow show, people just wanna buy, and I've noticed that more and more lately, and you always hear somebody say, "Oh, you should stay to the end of the show, like Saturday in the last hour of the show was my best. I did the most deals," right? And I'm starting to recognize this, a little bit, and it's not so much people coming in, it could be people coming in, later in the afternoon to a show, but it turns out to be other dealers. Now they've had good days, right? A great day. They've been doing sales all day. They got, pockets full of money, or they should, or hopefully they do, right? So now they want to go spend, and this is what happens, at the show. People start, sometimes you feel like, and I know as a dealer, and I said this before, you feel like you owe it to yourself. Like I've been all day here working, right? I want to treat myself with something. I want to go buy something. I want to go get something. I think a lot of dealers feel the same way. You get some money in your pocket, right? Let's go buy something. Let's go, we've been selling all day. We've been putting all this work in. Let's go buy something. So that's why I think people say that the last hour of a show is always the best. And I just think it's because, and I think it's a lot of dealers too that are just saying, you know what, I've got this money. It's slowing down. Let me go look around. The money's burning a hole in my pocket. If you ever heard that expression, I'm gonna go spend a little money. And I think that's exactly what happened at this show. And people just wanted to buy something at the end. So I'm at my table, and a number of dealers are coming around. Now it's, I'm thinking about, like, should I have packed up? Am I going to sit here for a little while longer? And that now all of a sudden the people start buying and deals start coming to the table. I start making these deals, start selling stuff, right? And I feel the same way. All right, I sold a few things. Maybe you know, I did a pretty big deal at the beginning, but now I was expecting that, but I wasn't expecting these last minute sales at the end of the day, right? So I'm the same way, hey, I've looked at, there's a number of cards in the room that I've looked at. I've gone out, and I've looked at a number of times. I looked at before the show started, during the show, I may have taken a walk around and I say, yeah, okay, those cards are still there. And then again, right before the show ended, I'm like, okay, maybe it's time. Maybe I'll pull the trigger on a few of these now that I've made some sales and I've got some money in my pocket, right? So again, yeah, it was like a little frenzy at the end. All of a sudden, people just started buying, and because they're buying, it's a green light for me to buy, right? I'm selling, so now I get a green light. I can go buy a little too. Um, and speaking only for myself here, all the deals I made were just with other dealers, right? I didn't. That was it. The end of the show, even though it was the end of the show, it was all dealers that I was buying and selling to. Um, and I talked a little bit on earlier episodes, an episode just talking about just buying from other dealers or just buying from people, uh, and buying those cards to resell them, right? We all do it, but I talked in that episode about, just it could be a little uncomfortable or a little awkward, right? So for myself, I've just become completely transparent. And especially with people I'm friends with. Like, if I go to a show and I don't know another dealer, like, I mean, I could get to know them, or, could be my new best hobby friend. I have no idea. But if I see something, I say maybe I could buy that and put it. But if I know people, I mean, I'm not really going to, and I'm friends with you, I'm not really gonna, really try to work you hard on a price so I can go drop it in my case and upsell it. So I'd like to be completely transparent. And the one of the things I learned that makes me feel more comfortable is saying, you know, I don't know what you're into the card for, um, but I'm willing to, pay this amount, but no worries if you want to hold on to it. And me saying that, this is what I'm willing to pay. I don't need to go in this big negotiation, right? You're another fellow dealer. We're doing the same thing all day long, or a lot of it, a lot of the same thing. Look, this is what I'm willing to pay. I don't know. You could have graded the card and it could make perfect sense. You're like, yeah, go ahead and take it because I'm making a ton of money on this card. I got pulled it, or I bought it and I graded it, and here's the comp on it. I can go at this, 85% or whatever I'm offering on the card, right? And they're happy to let it go. And okay, that sounds good. But if not, no worries. You want to hold on to it, that's fine. Um, And some other cards that I'll go and I'll find in people's cases, even if I know them and I'll say them to them, "Look, I think I could probably sell that card better." Right? I'd have an easier time selling that card because it's my lane. It's what I'm selling, right? So if I see a Caitlin Clark or an Angel Reese card in somebody's case when they have 99% football or 99 or basketball and all this other stuff, and then they have one Caitlin Clark or one Angel Reese or maybe a couple of them. I mean, they say to them, "Hey, you know what? Let's make a deal because I could probably sell that card easier because people are coming to me. They know what I'm selling. They've come and bought from me before. They know I do the women's sports, and they're coming to find these cards. So they may walk by your, and I do this too. Like I'll go to a show and I'll go walk around, right? And I'll be looking in people's cases, and then I'll go back behind my table, and a friend will show up. Right. And they'll say, oh, like, oh, yeah, I was walking around. They'll say, oh, did you see that Trinity Rodman card? I'm like, who had a Trinity Rodman card? He's like, oh, the guy right there. I'm like, I looked in his case. I didn't see it. Then I go back again and I look and I'm like, oh, it's sitting right there. Right. So sometimes cards like that just can completely get lost in a case. Right. So it may be there and people may come up and look and see all the football and never see that card. Right. Because usually if you have one single card like that, it's usually off to one side, the bottom or a corner or something like that. And that's why we'd overlook it. So I'll say to people, you know what? I could probably sell that card easier. Let's make a deal. Maybe I've got some football in my case that we can do a trade plus cash or a trade or something like that. And I'm happy to do something like that. Uh, I'm just figuring out, or I've been figuring out, and I keep trying to figure out, right, how to make this comfortable as possible for both sides, uh, because it definitely can feel awkward, buying a card from a fellow dealer, and they give you a good price on it, or somebody comes to you and they're like, "Oh," and they really like, and you're like, "Oh, okay, I'll give you a good price," Then they take the card and they put it in their case and it's, they've got it for, a lot more money, and you think to yourself, "Well, I mean, I could have just left it in my case and marked it at that," right? So again, if it makes sense for people to do that, fine, but I just don't want it to be awkward. I don't want to buy a card from somebody and put it in my case and have you walk over and feel, like, oh, I can't believe you're asking that much for the card, or maybe you might get that back, or I didn't even think you were going to sell that card, right? Just try to be transparent and say, yeah, I'm going to take that card, but I'm going to put it in my case and sell it. A number of cards, football cards I bought throughout the spring, right? Early spring, late winter, early spring, from the people I know that were just getting these cards back from grading. They knew they were selling me these cards that they weren't going to come out until June, right? That I was going to hold these cards that long till June. And some of them come back and it said, wow, you did pretty well. Like, I see where the price is on that card now, or yeah, that was a great move on that card, or things like that. Uh, but they don't feel bad. They don't feel like, oh, like I owe them something or something like that. They're like, hey man, it was just a great move. You're the one that bought the card, held on to it. You made the investment, you put the card away, you held on to it for 6 months, and it's paying off for you now. I mean, they're certainly not feeling bad about it, or not feeling awkward or upset with me in any way. I think though, if they were to like really come down and give me a good deal, and I took that card and put it in my case and just sold it at the same show, I think that would be a completely different story. I'm in many hobby circles, and they're all tight knit groups. And one thing, I've learned to keep in harmony with the groups, with me anyways, is just to be honest, transparent, make sure you know how everybody else is feeling, right? And make sure if you're making deals with other dealers or people that are in your little hobby circle, uh, make sure both sides are feeling good about the deal for whatever reason, right? Because the 10, 20, 30%, means absolutely nothing if someone is walking away pissed off or feeling that they were maybe taken advantage of or lied to. anything like that. I mean, the relationships, these hobby relationships and these groups that we're in, they're so important. They're so important. And I think they're much more, even though we're all here for the hobby, right? We're all trying to make a few dollars too, right? And I don't think, and I'm going to say this for a lot of people, because a lot of people that I'm in these groups with, because I like to be in groups with people that are like-minded, that are like me. And I think everyone in that group, right, would forego money or a percentage on something, to not, you know, make it awkward or upset anybody in the group. Um, and these are the types of groups that I want to be in, right? And it's so important because the people in these groups, to me, are more important than the cards, right? Those hobby relationships, those because these people become your friends, right? These are the people that you're talking to daily. These are the people you're spending your weekends with. You're setting up at shows, traveling to. You're. I have a number of people now that I call. Whatever I know. This Saturday coming up, I have a show. We have a show that's probably a 45-minute drive from the house. So I'll make some calls to people during the week or send out some messages, say, hey, I'm going to this show. Anybody who wants to meet up, we can, drive together and do that. And I've done this now a few times. And this is the stuff that's more important, right? Hanging out with these guys, traveling to shows, just having a good time. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all going to make a few bucks on cards, and we may lose money on cards too, right? But I think it's more about the people. It's the cards and the people, but I don't think it's that much about the money. And people are going to say, "Oh, it's." And I understand. We all know those people in the hobby. We know those people that show up, and it's all about the money. It's nothing except the money, or we think that we observe people like that and think that's what it is. And maybe it is for some people. Maybe it is for some people, but those aren't the groups that I'm getting in. I'm not pulling that person into my group, and I'm not trying to insert myself into that group. Right? I have, great groups that I'm part of, and I'm happy to be part of them. Pickups from Friday night. So I was saying that I showed up and I bought something to rip, right? So I bought an Optic Football Mega Box, and I ended up, exciting enough, all these breaks I've been in, but I don't buy into Stroud. But I bought one box and I pulled this CJ Stroud Green Hyper, and you can see it's in my little BCW. I don't even know what you call this, whatever it is. These things you have to put your cards in to send them off to PSA. So I've already looked at it, and the card's in beautiful condition. So that's going to be heading off to PSA this week. Nothing expressed about it, because I've got plenty of shows in August and September that I'll be happy to have that card then. And I bought the mega box. I bought this through Bill and Billy, and I also did a deal with them at the end of the show too. Um, so this was one of those first cards at Caitlin Clark, the Bowman University, Caitlin Clark. This is the 2022. It's the first Bowman. It's the purple mini diamond refractor. It is numbered to 399. It's a PSA 9. So this is a card that they had in their case, and they had one Caitlin Clark card in their case. And I said to him, let's just make a deal on that card, because I think I could sell that card pretty quickly, probably at my next show, because people are coming to me now looking for the Caitlin Clarks and the Angel Reeses. So I was happy to pick that card up. And I also picked up the 2020 Donruss Optic Justin Herbert Hollow. And if you're on YouTube, I'm holding these up. I actually had 3 of these cards that I purchased throughout the last 6 months that I brought to Chantilly. And I sold them all. They were very popular cards at Chantilly. So even though I said I wasn't buying really any more football now, I couldn't resist on this one. We worked out the deal with this and the Caitlin Clark. So happy to have this card. I think this card will sell pretty quickly. Super easy deal. Shout out to them. I did another deal with Tom at Hudson Fan 15. He had brought this Leaf in the Game used sports, a Hope Solo card, number 2 of 3. It's a good looking card. I mean, there's really not a lot of value in this card, but I picked it up anyways. Um, I think it was the only, and even when he brought it to my table, he said it was the only women's soccer card he had in his case. Um, I picked it up. I'm gonna bring it to the SoCo Expo. Uh, maybe there'll be a Hope Solo collector out there, possibly. But again, it wasn't like if there wasn't, I'm not gonna lose sleep over it. Not an expensive card by any means. Uh, my favorite pickup of the night, and I picked this up from Tyler, who I had the big deal with going into the show. Um, was his 2019 Panini Contenders playoff ticket, rookie auto to 99. Are you ready for it? Gardner Minshew. And the card is raw, but he had just pack pulled it. He bought a box from 2019 and he ripped the box and he had just pack pulled this card, threw it in a one touch, and I bought it off him. Hey, my thought is again, a very inexpensive card, right? But any other quarterback, this card and any other quarterback would definitely be worth some money, right? And if he, or I should say, a starting quarterback, and if he can get the starting job there for the Vegas Raiders, right? Who knows? This card may get some value. If not, I don't mind hanging on to it. I'm sure there's going to be somebody out there that eventually will want this card. so, so those were my pickups from Friday night. Saturday morning, I had to work Saturday morning. And I thought it was going to be a quick job. I thought I'd be out of there by like 10:30, 11. I'd jump on the road and go to the Crown Jewel show in Rhode Island. It ended up taking a lot longer. I didn't finish up till noontime. So I was really on the fence about driving out there because it's like an hour and 35 minutes, from my house. And I just didn't know how much time I would have out there. So I ended up just biting the bullet, say, you know what, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna head to this show. So I jumped in the car about 12:30 and I got there roughly about 2 o'clock. And at one point, I was planning on doing this show. And I think I may have talked about it as one of my upcoming shows. But then I decided not to because of Saturday morning and Sunday obligations. It's a 2-day show, and it would have made no sense. I wouldn't have been able to be there Saturday morning, and I wouldn't be able to be there Sunday. So I backed out of doing this show. But I still wanted to go out and chat. I wanted to support the dealer. I want to support the show. I heard good things about the show, so I still wanted to go up, check it out, and see what it was all about. And the first thing I could say before I even bought my ticket to get in, it was loud. Right? They had the music playing, the bass beating, and I know they're they're making this an upbeat. They're trying to make it a nice, fun, upbeat environment. But I'll tell you what, those poor people in those first 2 rows, I was trying to talk to. I was having trouble, having conversations with the dealers because the music was so loud. As you got further back on the show, it was no problem, but it was kind of loud up there. They had a DJ set up, right there where you came in the door. And it was definitely kind of loud. They probably could have turned it down a tad. And I know you're probably saying, listen to that old guy complaining, get off my lawn, but no, it was loud. It was loud in there. And I know I could tell by talking to some of the dealers in the front rows. They're like, yeah, it's been loud. It was louder earlier in the morning and they turned it down. So they probably could have turned it down a tad more. There were a handful of empty tables, but you know what? I'm showing up at 2 o'clock. I think Saturday's hours were 9 to 5. So, I'd imagine a couple of dealers or a handful of dealers have packed up early, and left early, maybe had other obligations. So, I know that's, from setting up as a dealer, I know promoters hate that, and they're all about staying at your table. And some of these shows I'm doing now, I'm getting contracts that say I'm saying I'm going to be set up, be ready but at a certain time in the morning, and that I'm going to stay set up at my table until the ending time, and if there's some reason I have to go, then I need to speak with the promoter to get, permission to be able to leave early, something like that. So yeah, I know a lot of promoters don't like that, and I can understand why, right? Like someone like me, I drove an hour and 35 minutes. It's $12 to get into the show, and you walk in and see some empty tables, and you're like, well, I'm not getting my money's worth, right? I could see that. I could see people saying that, but you know what? I'm happy to pay the money and get in. I was happy to be at a show. Uh, I started one of the tables. I started talking to one of the dealers about my Jordan Love. He had a similar Jordan Love Contenders, the rookie Contenders auto that I had. I thought it was the same one, but it was a different variation. And he asked to see mine, and I showed him when I pulled my case out, pull it out. He's like, "Oh, do you mind if I look through that?" I said, "No, you can look through it." And I had price tags because I'm setting up. I put price tags on everything. So there's still price tags on there. And I'm always checking them. I didn't bring my full case, my full load. I just brought a small box, in case I, got a deal to trade up or trade down or something like that. I always like to have some ammunition, you know, anytime I go to a show. Um, and it's funny, I just had a conversation on Friday night. I was talking to a number of other dealers, people that I know I hang out with, um, that were talking to me about doing the Marlboro show, and that there was somebody there paying 95%. So they were selling, they were leaving their table to go sell to somebody else at their table. And I said, I never sell my when I go to a show, if I'm walking a show, I never sell my cards. I know the advantage, and I've talked about this on so many episodes, the advantage is on the dealer side. When and I know that balance of power, I think, has been shifting for a while, but I still think that the advantage is on the dealer side. And I know the percentages the dealers are going to offer. And to me, it doesn't make sense to sell it at, I'm not going in there because I need the money to buy something else, right? So if I have a card that, you're going to give me a certain percentage on, and it's less than what I would sell it for at the show, then I'm not going to do it because I'll just keep it and sell it at my next show. So I usually don't do that. Now, you know, I'll trade up, I'll trade down, I'll do things like that, and I've done that on that side of the table, but never just go out and say, "Oh, here's this card, give me cash for this card and I'll be happy." I just don't do it. I've never done it, and it's not in my plan. It's not what I wanna do. I think I'm selling myself short if I do that, for me, not for anybody else, because 'cause I'm buying stuff from people who are coming to sell to me, but for me, I think I'm selling myself short if I do that. So of course, the dealer loved the love card. Uh, the same card that I had at Chantilly was very popular. There was like an $1,800 sale, and there everyone was offering me like 1,600, 1,700 for the card, and I was like, no, I was firm at 2,200. Um, so after I left Chantilly, there was one sale on that card for 2,300. Um, And this dealer looked at that, started low, but then he came up quickly. He understood, that I wasn't going to let this card go. That I was going to sell it like I was on his side of the table. He made me a very good offer. I gave him my firm price, where I was going to be on it, and we settled for slightly under, which really, in my mind, even if I was on that side of the table and he was on my side, and I had paid for that table and he made me that offer, I probably still would have sold the card to him. So for me, it made sense. It was a super strong offer. And even when he bought the card, he said, I'm probably going to need to hold this at least a month, you know, before I put it out to sell it so I can make money on it. And I thought to myself, yep, you're absolutely right. I honestly think that card will grow in price. It's going to be worth more between now and August. right? But I'm happy to move that card now because I got into it at such a low price. It actually came in as a trade, but the value on that card was so low, it just made so much sense for me. I probably made more on that card than the person who graded it, when I sold it to this guy here. And I'm willing, right? There's a situation where I left, probably a little bit of meat on the bone, but no, there was going to be probably a lot more meat on that bone a month from now. I'm willing to take my profit now, because I know it's harder to move those cards, those bigger cards, for all cash, right? It's so much of, the bigger cards. There's a lot of trade involved, and when you get a straight cash offer on a card, it's really hard to turn it down. Um, and I know people will, they'll argue this, that hey, on a card like that, you could really benefit on trading, and yep, you're right. Um, and I imagine the right offer and trade, I would have waited. I would have traded out of it, like I traded into that card. Um, but to me, there's nothing wrong with heading into Cleveland cash heavy, right? I picked up 2 cards at the show from the same dealer. Uh, he told me it was his first time setting up as a dealer. I asked him to get me his social media information. He was looking for it. I said, "Look, here's my number. Just text it out to me." I told him I'd shout him out, but he just sent me his name instead. It's John Grayco, um, and I picked up 2 cards from him. I picked up this Angel Reese Bowman U Chrome prospects autograph, um, in a PSA 9. I'll hold that up for you. And I picked up a Paige Beckers Bowman's Best of 2023 autographs, numbered to 125. This is a PSA 10. Um, it is also a Pop 1. And I'm super happy to pick this card up now. Um, I have a number of her cards, and I'm just doing what I can to pick them up, and hopefully she's going to, be next year's darling in, college basketball. But shout out to John. Easy deal from John. I spent about an hour and a half at the show. I talked to a bunch of dealers. A lot of football. I was happy to see a lot of football out there now. It's really the forefront of everybody's cases. I was on my way out. I ran into my man Tim at Slab Strong. I chopped it up with him for a while. It was always good to see him. I think the last time I saw him was the National last year. So I'm definitely going to meet up with him this year in Cleveland. After that, I headed home. So 2 shows, a number of deals, all done with dealers, right? Um, and I know on my last episode, second time I'm quoting my man Joe, on the last episode, he said he had an interaction with a customer who said, "We're all dealers," right? Does that mean, the hobby is lacking collectors? A number of people I talk to that are collectors, are true collectors, they really don't do many shows. They have their own groups, their own circles, their own, on Facebook and Instagram and things like that. And they do a lot of their buying and selling through those groups. They don't make it out to shows. They don't get out to shows to a couple times a year, some of the bigger shows. And it's an ordeal for them. It's an excitement. I mean, they prepare, they make lists, they come in cash heavy, they know what they're looking for, what they're willing to pay for it, that type of thing. But I think those people are far and few between. I think a lot of I got to thinking, like here I am. I made all these deals this weekend with other dealers, and probably most of the deals I do are with somebody dealing in one way or another, whether they're setting up at shows or they're taking them home to sell online or whatever they're doing, right? Um, all these cards, right, that I bought from other dealer. I didn't bring any. I didn't. Nothing here that I picked up was going to be from my PC, right? Everything I have a plan. Everything I pick up in my mind, I have a plan of either it'll be moved quickly or I'll be put away and it'll be held on to move, at a later time. Um, and for me, my next moves, I mean, I'm looking forward to the fall and winter, right? So this in the last few years, this is the time that I would be buying hockey, right, to sell in the fall, but I'm not doing that this year. I'm stepping away from the hockey and I'm starting to like I said with the Paige Beckers, right? I'm starting to prospect some of the women's college basketball players. I've been buying up a number of Paige Beckers, Juju Watkins, Kiki Rice, a number of other people, some the Bowman U football, some of the prospects there, the quarterback prospects there. Really just trying to figure out that lane a little bit. It's not gonna be ultra new to me, and you know what? I know I'm gonna take some backlash, and I know people are gonna say, "Look, everybody's not gonna be like Caitlin Clark," and I understand that, but I think that ball is rolling now, and I think there's gonna be enough of a lane there. I'm gonna continue to do football, right? Because that's my main lane, but I think I'm enjoying doing the college basketball. So I think I'll stick with it. And you know what? As soon as the WNBA Prism drops, I know that's going to be super popular with all these great prospects, and I'll jump into that as well. Hey, we all need to find our lane, right? And I'd rather be in a lane that I'm excited about and what that makes me happy, right? So last year the hockey was a struggle with me trying to move hockey last year. It was a struggle. And I know my hockey guys are going to be like, "Oh, can you abandon it us?" Right? But maybe I did, but you know what? It was a super struggle last year with hockey, and the year before it was kind of a struggle too. So I'm going to step away from the hockey this year. I may end up with some Connor Bedard, right? But that may be the extent of it. That's all I got for you today. I will be back Thursday with a brand new episode, season 4, episode 50. The season 4 finale will be on Thursday. And overall, that will be the 200th episode. I didn't even think I'd even end up out of season 1, and here we are going to be ending season 4, episode 200. So looking forward to that. I'll see you back here on Thursday. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. If you like what you hear, please definitely subscribe, and most importantly, tell a friend and spread the word. And until next time, take care of yourselves and everyone around you.